The great hall of Nexus Prime floated in the endless dark of space. It was the largest station ever built. 12 alien races had worked together to create it thousands of years ago. Now it served as the heart of the Galactic Council, where the most powerful beings in the known universe gathered to decide the fate of billions. High Arbiter Zolketh walked slowly to his seat at the center of the curved table. His gray skin caught the pale blue light that filled the chamber. His 4 eyes scanned the other council members as they took their places. The Venthari, his own people, had led this council for 600 years. They were the eldest, the wisest, or so they believed. "We begin today's session," Zolketh announced. His voice echoed through the massive room. First matter: mining rights in the Outer Rim territories. The discussion was boring. It was always boring. The council had not faced a real problem in over 2,000 years. Their fleets were old, but nobody challenged them. Their weapons were outdated, but nobody needed new ones. Peace had made them lazy. Comfort had made them blind. Ambassador Kethra of the Silori Dominion raised her slender hand. Her people were known for their beauty and their sharp minds. "There is a small matter on today's list. Sector Sol 3. The observation protocols expire next cycle. Do we renew them?" Zolketh waved a dismissive hand. Sol 3. The humans. He spoke the word like it left a bad taste in his mouth. They are still fighting among themselves. Yes? The last probe report is 300 years old, Kethra said carefully. Perhaps we should send a new observation team. Why waste resources? Another council member asked. He was Drothkon of the Morveth Empire, a massive creature with scales like black iron. Those creatures were barely using fire when we found them. They have likely destroyed themselves by now. Their kind always does. Laughter filled the chamber. Soft, cruel laughter from beings who had watched countless young species burn themselves out. Humanity was just another failed experiment of nature, another footnote in galactic history. Renew the quarantine, Zolketh decided. No ships enter or leave that sector. Let the humans rot in their little corner of space. Next matter. The council moved on. They did not think about Earth again. They should have. 40,000 light-years away, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the command deck of the USS Defiant. The ship was enormous. It stretched nearly 2 miles from front to back. Its hull was painted dark gray, almost black, designed to disappear against the void of space. Weapons lined every surface. This was not a ship built for exploration. This was a ship built for war. Jake was 53 years old. His hair had gone gray at the temples, and deep lines marked his face. He had served in the Terran Navy for 30 years. He had watched humanity change during that time. He had watched them transform from a scattered mess of nations into something unified, something dangerous. Admiral, Commander Laura Bennett approached from behind. She was younger than Jake, in her early 40s. With sharp eyes that missed nothing, she had been his second in command for 8 years. He trusted her completely. All 47 carrier groups report ready. 3,000 warships. 12 million personnel. Full weapons load. Jake nodded slowly. He stared at the main view screen, which showed the stars stretching into infinity. Somewhere out there, alien races looked down on humanity. They had watched Earth struggle through wars and plagues and famines. They had done nothing to help. Worse than nothing, you know, Jake said quietly. My grandfather told me stories when I was a boy. He said there were lights in the sky that watched us. Everyone thought he was crazy. Turns out, he was the only sane one. Jake said that. Jake. Jake said there were Concil. Jake said there were lights in the sky. Jake said there were lights in the sky. Jake, Laura stood beside him. The probe we captured in 2089 changed everything. It did. Jake's jaw tightened. We found their files, their records. They knew about us for thousands of years. They could have shared their medicine when the Great Plagues hit. They could have warned us about the asteroid in 2041. Millions died. They just watched. And now? Now they learn that watching has consequences. The door behind them opened. Captain Ryan Torres entered the command deck. He was a small man with quick movements and clever hands. He commanded the reconnaissance vessel USS Spectre, the fastest ship in the fleet. "Admiral," Ryan said with a crisp salute, "my team has completed the final jump calculations. We can reach Council space in 6 standard hours." "What about their defenses?" Ryan smiled. But there was no warmth in it. "Their defenses are a joke. Their newest warship is 400 years old. They have forgotten how to fight. They have forgotten what fear feels like." "They will remember," Jake said. He walked to the center of the command deck. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. They came from every nation that had once divided Earth: American, Chinese, Russian, Indian, Nigerian, Brazilian. All the old borders meant nothing now. They were Terran. They were human. And they had one purpose: open a channel to all ships, Jake ordered. Laura pressed the controls. "Channel open, sir." Jake's voice carried across 3,000 warships. 12 million men and women stopped to listen. "This is Admiral Morrison. For 300 years, we have prepared for this day. Our grandparents discovered the truth. We are not alone in this universe. But we are alone in our struggle. The races of the Galactic Concil watched us suffer. They watched us die. They placed bets on when we would destroy ourselves." He paused. The silence was absolute. "We did not destroy ourselves. We survived. We grew. We built weapons they cannot imagine, and ships they cannot match. And now we will show them what humanity does to those who abandon us in our darkest hour." Jake turned to face the main view screen. "All ships, begin jump sequence. Destination: Nexus Prime. Formation: Attack Pattern Omega." The lights on the command deck dimmed as the jump drives powered up. Outside, the stars began to stretch and blur. 47 carrier groups, 3,000 warships, all moving as one. Laura stepped closer to Jake. "Do you think they know we are coming?" Jake watched the stars turn into streaks of white light. "Not yet," he said. "But they will. And when they see what we have become, they will finally understand. Humanity is not a species to be observed. We are not creatures to be pitied. We are the storm they never saw coming." The USS Defiant jumped to light speed. 3,000 ships followed. The galaxy was about to change forever. The council session dragged on for hours. Ambassador Kethra found herself growing restless in her seat. The Siluri did not like sitting still for long. Her people preferred movement, action, purpose. This endless talking about mining rights and trade agreements made her want to scream, but something else bothered her. Something she could not name. She looked at the sensor display built into her section of the table. The readings showed normal space traffic around Nexus Prime. Merchant vessels moving in predictable patterns, patrol ships floating lazily at their assigned positions. Nothing unusual, yet Kethra felt cold. Her skin, normally a warm shade of gold, had paled slightly. Her people had strong instincts. They could sense danger before it arrived. Right now, every instinct told her something was terribly wrong. "High Arbiter," she said, interrupting a debate about fuel prices. "I am detecting unusual gravitational readings at the edge of the system." Zolketh did not even look at her. "Probably a sensor malfunction. This station is old. Things break." With respect, the readings suggest multiple large objects entering our space. Drathkon made a sound like grinding stones. It was the Morvith way of laughing. "You, Siluri, are always nervous. There is nothing out there. There has been nothing out there for 2,000 years. Relax, Ambassador." Kethra wanted to argue, but she knew it was pointless. The Council had grown too comfortable. They had forgotten that the universe was vast and full of unknowns. They believed their power was absolute. She hoped they were right. She feared they were wrong. Far from Nexus Prime, on the edge of Council space, Captain Ryan Torres watched his screens with careful eyes. The USS Spectre lived up to its name. It was invisible to every sensor the Council possessed. Advanced stealth technology wrapped around the small ship like a shadow. "Report," Ryan said quietly. Lieutenant Megan Cross sat at the communications station. She was young, barely 25, but her skills with alien languages and encrypted signals had earned her a place on this mission. "I am picking up standard Council chatter. Nothing suggests they know we are here." "Good. What about patrol movements?" 3 Venthari patrol ships at bearing 270. "They are running standard patterns." "Lazy patterns." Megan allowed herself a small smile. "They are not expecting trouble." Ryan nodded. The Council had not fought a real battle in 2 millennia. Their navy was for show, not for war. They had forgotten the basic rules of survival. Always watch. Always prepare. Always assume something is out there, waiting. "The fleet will arrive in 2 hours, Ryan said. "We need to confirm targeting coordinates for Nexus Prime." "Begin deep scan." Megan's fingers danced across her controls. Data flooded her screen. The station's layout, its power systems, its shields, its weapons. "Admiral Morrison will want to see this," she said, her voice dropping. "Their shields are ancient. Our plasma cannons will cut through them like paper. Their weapons could not scratch our hull paint. Forward the data to the Defiant." Megan sent the information through a tight beam transmission. Then she frowned. "Captain, I am picking up something strange." Define strange. One of the Venthari patrol ships just went silent. No distress call. No engine signature. It simply stopped transmitting. Ryan leaned forward. "Did our fleet reach them early?" Megan checked the readings again. Her face went pale. "Yes, sir. Carrier Group 7 just dropped out of light speed near their position. The patrol ship tried to run." "Tried?" "It was destroyed in less than 3 seconds. Our destroyers opened fire the moment they exited jump." Ryan felt nothing. The Venthari had watched humanity suffer for centuries. A few dead patrol officers meant little to him. "Any distress calls?" "No, sir. We jammed their communications before they could transmit." "Good. Continue monitoring. The Council must not know what is coming until it is too late." On Nexus Prime, Tyrell was having a very bad day. He was a young Korathi, barely past his maturity cycle. His people were small, careful beings with large eyes and quick fingers. They made excellent technicians. The Council used them for all the jobs that required attention to detail, but offered no glory. Tyrell worked in the sensor monitoring division. It was boring work. He watched screens all day, looking for anomalies that never came. Nothing ever happened at Nexus Prime. Nothing interesting. Anyway, but today was different. His screen flickered. Then it flickered again. Numbers appeared that made no sense. Energy readings that seemed impossible. Gravitational distortions that suggested something very large was moving through space at incredible speed. Tyrell checked his equipment. Everything was working properly. He ran a diagnostic. All systems normal. The readings were real. "Supervisor," he called out, his voice shaking slightly. "I am detecting massive energy signatures entering the system." His supervisor, an older Korathi named Ven, waddled over slowly. "What kind of signatures?" "Ship signatures. Many of them. Hundreds. Maybe thousands." Ven looked at the screen. His large eyes grew even larger. "That cannot be correct. Run another diagnostic." "I already did. The readings are accurate." "Then report it to the Council immediately." Tyrell tried. He sent the alert through proper channels. But the Council had protocols. Procedures. Forms that needed to be filled out. Supervisors who needed to approve messages. By the time his warning reached anyone important, it was already too late. High Arbiter Zolketh received the alert in the middle of a vote about agricultural subsidies. He read it quickly, then read it again. His 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "This must be a mistake," he said. "Thousands of ships? From where?" Before anyone could answer, the lights in the chamber dimmed. Emergency warnings began to flash. The great windows that lined the hall, windows that showed the beautiful emptiness of space, suddenly showed something else. Ships, Human ships. They filled the sky like stars made of metal. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers. Battleships so massive they blocked out the distant sun. They hung in perfect formation, arranged in geometric patterns that spoke of discipline and purpose. Ambassador Kethra rose slowly from her seat. Her golden skin had gone completely white. "By the Ancient Ones," she whispered. "They did not destroy themselves." Zolketh stared at the fleet outside his window. For the first time in 600 years, he felt something he had forgotten existed: fear. "Open communications," he ordered, his voice cracking. "Find out who they are, what they want." But deep down, he already knew. The sector they had ignored, the species they had abandoned, the quarantine they had laughed about just hours ago. The humans had come, and they had brought war with them. The council chamber had never known such chaos. 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy ran about like frightened children. Some shouted orders that nobody followed. Others stood frozen, staring at the fleet that darkened their sky. Ambassador Kethra watched them all with growing horror. This was impossible. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be dead. They were certainly not supposed to be here with enough firepower to crack a planet in half. High Arbiter Zolketh gripped the edge of his chair. His gray skin had turned almost white. "How many ships?" he demanded. A young aide checked the readings with trembling hands. "Over 3,000 confirmed vessels, High Arbiter. We have never seen a fleet this size. We cannot identify most of the ship classes. Our databases have no record of human military technology. Because we never bothered to look," Kethra said bitterly. "We assumed they would kill themselves. We were too proud to watch." "Silence," Zolketh snapped. "This is not the time for blame. Open a channel to their fleet. We will negotiate." Drathkon of the Morveth slammed his massive fist on the table. "Negotiate? We should destroy them. Order our defense fleet to attack." "Our defense fleet consists of 47 ships," Kethra replied coldly. "They have 3,000. Do the mathematics." Before Drathkon could respond, the main view screen flickered to life. A human face appeared on the display. He was older, with gray hair and hard eyes that seemed to look through the council members rather than at them. He wore a dark uniform decorated with medals and insignia that meant nothing to the aliens watching him. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Terran Navy," he said. His voice was calm and steady. There was no anger in it. Somehow, that made it worse. "I am addressing the Galactic Concil." Zolketh straightened in his seat, trying to regain some dignity. "Admiral Morrison, I am High Arbiter Zolketh of the Venthari Collective. I speak for the Council. We welcome you to Nexus Prime and wish to discuss—" "I did not come to discuss," Jake interrupted. His tone did not change. It remained flat, almost pleasant. "I came to deliver a message." "Then speak your message. The Council will hear you." Jake paused for a moment. On the Defiant, Commander Laura Bennett stood beside him. She watched his face carefully. She knew what was coming. They had planned this for years. 3 centuries ago, Jake began. Your council discovered a young species on a small blue planet. We were primitive. We fought among ourselves. We had not yet reached for the stars. You watched us struggle through wars and diseases and disasters. You had the technology to help. You had the medicine to save millions. You chose to do nothing. Zolketh raised a hand. "Admiral, if there were mistakes in the past, we can correct them. The Council is prepared to offer humanity full membership. Trade agreements. Technology sharing. We can—" "You placed bets on when we would destroy ourselves," Jake continued, ignoring him. "Your records show gambling pools among Council members. Which human nation would launch the first nuclear strike? How many would die in the Great Famine of 2087? You found our suffering entertaining." The Council members shifted uncomfortably. Those records were supposed to be secret. How had the humans found them? "We did not destroy ourselves," Jake said. "We survived. We unified. We built ships that your sensors cannot track, and weapons that your shields cannot stop. And now, we have come to remind you of a simple truth." He leaned forward slightly. "Humanity does not forget." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. For 3 seconds, nobody spoke. Then the first explosion shook the station. Laura Bennett had ordered the strike. Her tactical officers targeted the Council's orbital defense platforms with surgical precision. Plasma bolts tore through ancient shields like they were made of smoke. Explosions bloomed in the darkness of space. One by one, the defense stations died. "All platforms destroyed," Laura reported. "Enemy fleet is attempting to mobilize." Jake watched the Council's warships struggle to form a defensive line. They moved slowly, confused, their crews clearly unprepared for real combat. Many of them had never fired their weapons outside of training exercises. "How many enemy vessels?" Jake asked. 47 confirmed, mostly light cruisers, a few heavy frigates, nothing larger than our destroyers. Order carrier groups 3 through 7 to engage, keep the rest in reserve. The battle lasted less than 4 minutes. Human destroyers carved through the Council fleet with brutal efficiency. The alien ships fired back, but their weapons splashed harmlessly against Terran shields. One by one, the Council vessels were disabled or destroyed. A few managed to surrender. Most did not get the chance. While the space battle raged, Colonel Ben Harper prepared for Phase 2. He stood in the launch bay of the carrier USS Liberty, surrounded by 2,000 Marines in full combat armor. His soldiers were eager. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. "Listen up," Ben shouted over the roar of engines. "Our objective is simple. Secure Nexus Prime. Capture Council leadership alive if possible. Deadly force is authorized against any resistance." The Marines cheered. Assault shuttles launched from a dozen carriers. They streaked toward Nexus Prime, dodging debris from the destroyed defense platforms. The station's internal security forces tried to stop them. Point defense guns fired wildly, hitting nothing. Ben's shuttle was the first to breach the station's hull. His Marines poured through the opening, weapons raised. They encountered Venthari guards almost immediately. The guards hesitated. They had never seen humans before except in ancient recordings. These creatures were supposed to be weak, fragile, easy to defeat. Then the humans opened fire. The fight was over in seconds. The Venthari guards fell without landing a single blow. Their armor was decorative. Their weapons were relics. They had forgotten how to be warriors. Ben led his team deeper into the station. Room by room, corridor by corridor, they advanced toward the Council chamber. Some aliens surrendered immediately. Others tried to run. A few fought back and died quickly. In the Council chamber, High Arbiter Zolketh listened to the reports with growing despair. His fleet was gone. His guards were falling. His station was being invaded by creatures he had dismissed as primitive animals. "We must escape," Drathkon growled. "The emergency shuttles have been disabled," Kethra said quietly. She had checked already. The humans planned this carefully. "We have nowhere to go." The doors to the chamber exploded inward. Marines poured through the opening, their weapons trained on the Council members. Ben Harper walked in behind them, his rifle still smoking from the last firefight. "Nobody move," he ordered. "By the authority of the United Terran Navy, you are all under arrest." Zolketh stood slowly, his 4 eyes fixed on Ben with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "You cannot do this. We are the Galactic Concil. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years." Ben smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You ruled because nobody challenged you. That just changed." He gestured to his Marines. "Take them into custody. Admiral Morrison will want to speak with them personally." As Zolketh was led away in restraints, he passed a window. Outside, human warships filled the sky. The bodies of dead Council sailors floated among the wreckage of their fleet. The old order was crumbling, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Nexus Prime had fallen silent. The sounds of battle faded as human Marines secured the final sections of the great station. Wounded aliens received medical care from Terran doctors who treated them with surprising gentleness. Prisoners were gathered in holding areas and given food and water. This was not mindless destruction. This was controlled conquest. Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime with Commander Laura Bennett at his side. Marine guards surrounded them, though they were hardly necessary. The station's defenders had all surrendered or fled. "Casualty report," Jake said. 17 Marines wounded, Laura replied. None killed. Enemy casualties are still being counted. Preliminary estimates suggest around 200 dead, 400 wounded, and over 3,000 captured. The council members? All 12 are in custody. Colonel Harper has them secured in their own meeting chamber. He thought you might appreciate the symbolism. Jake allowed himself a small smile. Ben Harper understood him well. They continued walking until they reached a massive doorway marked with symbols Jake did not recognize. The door was sealed with heavy locks and energy barriers. "What is this place?" Jake asked. Laura checked her datapad. According to station schematics, this is the archive vault. The council stores their most important records here. Historical documents, diplomatic treaties, research data going back thousands of years. "Can we get in?" "Already working on it." Laura gestured to a small team of technicians who had set up equipment near the door. Lieutenant Commander Nicole Price is leading the extraction team. She says the encryption is complex, but not impossible. Jake nodded and waited. Nicole Price was the best intelligence officer in the fleet. If anyone could crack alien security systems, she could. 20 minutes later, the doors slid open. Nicole emerged with a triumphant expression that quickly faded into something darker. She held a data tablet in her hands. "Admiral," she said quietly, "you need to see this." Jake took the tablet. Laura leaned in to read over his shoulder. The screen displayed translated documents, records that went back centuries. As Jake read, his face grew harder. Laura's hands clenched into fists. "They did not just ignore us," Jake said finally. His voice was barely a whisper. "They tried to kill us." The records were clear. The Council had not simply watched humanity struggle. They had actively worked to ensure humanity's destruction. Asteroid 2041, the one that killed 20 million people when it struck Southeast Asia, the Council had altered its trajectory. The Great Plague of 2087 that wiped out a quarter of the human population. Council scientists had engineered it and introduced it through their observation probes. There was more. So much more. Economic manipulations that caused famines, political interference that sparked wars, small actions taken over centuries, all designed to keep humans fighting each other instead of reaching for the stars. The elder races had feared what humanity might become. They had decided to eliminate the threat, quietly, slowly, in ways that would never be traced back to them. "Monsters," Laura breathed. "They are monsters." Jake handed the tablet back to Nicole. "Can you transmit this across the galaxy?" "Every frequency. Every station. Every ship," Nicole nodded. "It will take some time to set up the broadcast, but yes. Do it." Within 2 hours, the truth spread across known space. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds watched the evidence of Council crimes. The reactions varied. Some refused to believe, others had always suspected the elder races were not as noble as they claimed. But among the species the Council had labeled lesser. The response was immediate. The Korathi, whose people had been used as servants for millennia, began organizing protests on their homeworld. The Drenari, forced to work in Council mining operations for generations, started seizing the mines. The Yulthi, who had been denied space travel because the Council deemed them too primitive, stormed the spaceports that had kept them trapped on their planet. The galaxy was waking up. And it was angry. On Nexus Prime, Terrell the Korathi sensor technician watched the broadcasts with wonder in his large eyes. He had always been told that the Council was wise and good. He had always believed that the elder races knew best. Now he saw the truth. His supervisor, Ven, stood beside him. The older Korathi looked shattered. "Everything we were taught. Ven said slowly. Everything we believed. It was all lies. Not all of it, Tyrell replied. The lies came from above. The truth is, right here. He gestured at the human Marines who patrolled the corridors. They had treated the Karathi staff with respect, even kindness. One of them had given Tyrell a food bar when he looked hungry. What happens now? Ven asked. I do not know, but I think it might be better than what came before. In the council chamber, Jake Morrison faced the 12 prisoners. They sat in the same chairs where they had ruled the galaxy for centuries. Now they wore restraints and looks of utter defeat. High Arbiter Zolketh spoke first. You have seen the records. I have. Then you understand. We did what we thought was necessary. Humanity was dangerous. Your species breeds quickly, adapts rapidly, and shows no respect for established order. If we had let you reach the stars naturally, you would have challenged our authority within generations. Jake stared at him. So you tried to murder us. We tried to protect the galaxy from chaos. Everything we built over 10,000 years would have crumbled if... Stop. Jake's voice cut through the air like a blade. I did not come here to listen to your excuses. I came here to tell you what happens next. Zolketh fell silent. The evidence of your crimes has been broadcast across the galaxy. Every species you enslaved. Every people you oppressed. Every race you deemed lesser now knows the truth. Your authority is gone. Your empire is crumbling. The Karathi are rebelling. The Drenari have seized their mining colonies. The Yulthi are launching ships for the first time in their history. Ambassador Kethra lowered her head. Unlike the others, she seemed more sad than afraid. We created this, she said softly. Through our arrogance, we destroyed everything the council was supposed to represent. Jake looked at her for a long moment. You were the only one who sensed something was wrong. You tried to warn them. It does not matter. I am still one of them. I still benefited from their crimes. Yes, Jake agreed. You did. But what you do next might matter more than what you did before. He turned to leave the chamber. Colonel Ben Harper moved to follow him. At the door, Jake paused. The universe is changing, he said without looking back. The old powers are falling. New alliances will form. You can spend the rest of your lives as prisoners, or you can help build something better than what you destroyed. He walked out without waiting for a response. Commander Laura Bennett caught up with him in the corridor. You are giving them a choice? Commander, I am giving them a chance. Whether they take it is up to them. Jake looked out a nearby window. Human warships still hung in formation around the station, but their weapons were silent now. The battle was over. We came here to end their tyranny, not to replace it with our own. Laura nodded slowly. What comes next, Admiral? Jake watched a small Karathi technician walk past, escorted by 2 Marines. The little alien looked up at the humans, with something that might have been hope. Now we build, Jake said, something the galaxy has never seen before. Something fair, something equal, something worth fighting for. The first stage was complete. The reckoning had come. But the hardest work still lay ahead. 3 weeks had passed since the fall of Nexus Prime. In that time, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The old council empires had shattered like glass. Rebellion spread across 100 worlds. Species that had been oppressed for millennia rose up against their masters. It was chaos, but it was also freedom. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the same chamber where the Galactic Concil had once ruled. The curved table remained, but the seats were empty now. Workers had removed the symbols of council authority. The walls had been stripped of ancient banners. The room felt hollow, waiting to be filled with something new. Commander Laura Bennett entered through the main doors. She carried a datapad filled with reports from across the fleet. The delegations are arriving, she said. Representatives from 47 species have answered our invitation. More are expected within the next few hours. The former council races? Most of them have sent representatives as well. Ambassador Kethra of the Silori has agreed to speak on their behalf. Jake nodded. Kethra had surprised him in the weeks since the invasion. While other council members had remained bitter and uncooperative, she had worked tirelessly to help the transition. She had provided access to council records. She had helped negotiate peaceful surrenders on a dozen worlds. She seemed genuinely determined to atone for her role in the old regime. "What about the Korathi?" Jake asked. Laura smiled. "They are sending a delegation of 20. Their leader is a young technician named Tyrell. Apparently, he has become something of a hero among his people." Jake remembered the name. The sensor operator who had tried to warn the council about the approaching fleet. His warning had been ignored. But he had been right. Sometimes being right mattered more than being heard. The delegations began arriving throughout the day. Ships of every size and design docked at Nexus Prime. Aliens of every shape and color walked through corridors that had once been forbidden to their kind. For many of them, this was their first time inside the great station. For all of them, it was the first time they had walked here as equals. Tyrell felt nervous as he entered the council chamber. His large Korathi eyes scanned the room, taking in the gathered species. He recognized some from his studies: the reptilian Drenari, the crystalline Yulthi, the graceful Silori. Others were completely new to him. And everywhere, moving among them with quiet confidence, were the humans. They were strange creatures, these humans. Tyrell had expected conquerors to be cruel and arrogant. Instead, the humans treated everyone with respect. They offered translation devices to those who needed them. They provided food and drink suited to every species' biology. They asked questions about cultures and histories that the council had tried to erase. Admiral Morrison stepped onto a raised platform at the center of the chamber. The room fell silent. Every eye, every sensor, every perception organ focused on the human who had brought them all together. "Thank you for coming," Jake began. His voice was amplified throughout the chamber. "I know many of you traveled far to be here. I know some of you are still uncertain about what this gathering means. Let me be clear about one thing. We did not summon you here to demand your loyalty." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Humanity did not come to this galaxy to become the new council. We did not destroy one tyranny to replace it with another. We came because we were left to suffer alone. We came because nobody helped us when we needed it most. And we came because we believe the galaxy can be better than it was. Jake paused. He looked around the chamber at the representatives of dozens of species. Former enemies, former slaves, former rulers, all of them watching him with hope and suspicion in equal measure. Today I am announcing the formation of the Terran Accord. It is not an empire. It is not a hierarchy. It is a partnership of equals. Any species that wishes to join may do so. Any species that wishes to remain independent may do so. We ask only one thing of our members: that they treat all other members as equals, regardless of age, power, or technology. The Drenari representative raised a clawed hand. "What happens to those who oppose you? To those who refuse to join?" "Nothing," Jake replied. "The Accord will not force itself on anyone. But we will also not tolerate aggression against our members. If you want war, you will find us ready. If you want peace, you will find us welcoming." Ambassador Kethra stepped forward. The former council member looked different now. She had removed the ceremonial robes of her office and wore simple clothing. Her golden skin had regained its color, but her eyes held a weight they had not carried before. "I wish to speak," she said. Jake nodded. "The floor is yours." Kethra turned to face the assembly. "My people, the Silori, were among the founders of the Galactic Concil. For 10,000 years, we benefited from its power. We told ourselves we were wise. We told ourselves we were just. We were neither." She paused to steady herself. "The Council watched young species struggle and die because we feared they might challenge us. We committed crimes that cannot be forgiven. I cannot undo what was done. I can only offer my people's commitment to a different path." She looked at Jake. "The Silori wish to join the Terran Accord. Not as rulers, not as special members, as equals. Nothing more, nothing less." One by one, other delegations stepped forward. The Korathi, led by Tyrell, pledged their support. The Drenari, after generations in the mines, asked to join as free citizens. The Yulthi, taking their first steps into the wider galaxy, offered friendship and alliance. Even Drothkon of the Morvith, the massive warrior who had laughed at the very idea of human threats, bent his great scaled head. The Morvith respect strength, he rumbled. You have proven yours. We will join this accord. By the end of the day, 39 species had pledged themselves to the new alliance. The largest voluntary coalition in galactic history. Not built through conquest, but through hope. Later that evening, Jake stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime. The human fleet had begun to withdraw, leaving only a small defensive force. Most of the ships were heading home to Earth. Their mission was complete. Laura joined him by the window. Colonel Ben Harper and Captain Ryan Torres stood nearby. Lieutenant Commander Nicole Price had brought a bottle of something that looked suspiciously like champagne. We actually did it, Laura said quietly. We changed the galaxy. We started something, Jake corrected her. Whether it becomes what we hope depends on what happens next. Alliances are easy to form. They are harder to keep. Ben crossed his arms. The council members are asking about their future. Most of them want to know if they will be executed. No executions, Jake said firmly. They will face trials. Fair trials. The galaxy will decide their fate, not me. Nicole poured glasses for everyone. To new beginnings, she offered. They raised their glasses. Outside the window, ships from a dozen species flew in formation with human vessels. Korathi and Drenari walked together through the station's corridors. Silori diplomats spoke earnestly with Yulthi explorers. The galaxy was changing before their eyes. Tyrell appeared at the entrance to the observation deck. He hesitated, unsure if he was welcome. Jake waved him in. Join us. Join us. The young Korathi approached nervously. Admiral, I wanted to thank you. My people were nothing under the council. Now we have a voice. We have dignity. Jake placed a hand on Tyrell's thin shoulder. Your people were never nothing. The council just could not see your worth. We did. Why? Tyrell asked. Why did you help us when you could have simply conquered everything? Jake considered the question for a long moment. Because we remembered what it felt like to be alone, to be ignored, to be dismissed as worthless. We would not wish that on anyone else. He looked back out at the stars. Humanity's strength was never just our ships or our weapons. It was our ability to stand together when everything tried to tear us apart. Now, we want to share that strength with others. That is what the Accord means. That is what we fought for. Tyrell nodded slowly. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was part of something greater than himself. Something worth believing in. The galaxy would never be the same. But for the first time in 10,000 years, that was a good thing. And humanity, the species the Council had tried to destroy, stood at the center of it all. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, as friends.